Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at a very special watch that's been creating quite a bit of a buzz, and this is the Ward C60 Trident Mk3. This model in particular is the Elite 1000, which is the most expensive model out of the new range. So there's the Pro range, which is the standard auto, £695, the GMT, which is £895, and then this one, the Elite, which is £1,250. So the main difference between this one is the higher water resistance. It's COSC certified as well, and it has a titanium case rather than the steel case. So as you can see, Ward have completely altered the design of the watch. They've basically re-engineered every single aspect of it. To me, the quality is much higher. And I know that many people will be pro or against the design changes. Two main changes. First of all, the hands. Obviously, we've ditched the onion hand and the sword hand. And secondly, we've removed the wavy dial as well to a reflective dial instead. So we'll discuss it in closer detail, part by part as usual, and we'll see if it really is worth the money. So let's discuss the specs first of all. Let me just pop it on. Okay, so we have a diameter of 42mm and a height of 15mm on this one in particular, and a lug-to-lug length of 49mm. Now, interestingly, they've ditched the 43mm case size, which is great. And they've got it in 42mm and also 38mm options. And also, if you want the black dial, black bezel option, that also comes in 40mm options. So they've really increased the range of the sizes, which I think is excellent. I think the 38mm will prove to be incredibly popular. However, because this is all quite at the time of recording this is all under embargo. I haven't had a chance to look at the other watches. So it will be interesting to see how the 38mm and the 40mm dials look, with everything ever so slightly squished a few mil inward. So, it could work really well, could work in its favor, or it could look a little bit cramped. I don't know. Hopefully, though, there'll be a size for everyone. And I think, realistically, there is. So that's good, and I'm glad they ditched the 43mm as well, because that was too big. The weight of this watch in particular, this is a 42mm titanium, is only 104 grams with the strap. So obviously, because it is a titanium case, naturally it is a lot lighter than stainless steel. So 104 grams, it still feels pretty decent, pretty weighty. Obviously the size as well aids with that as well. And the strap, despite it being it's called a hybrid sport strap. We'll talk about it in further detail. It's relatively weighty as well. So that's made of rubber and Cordura. So the weight, 104 grams, it feels pretty good on the wrist. It feels quality. Water resistance of this one obviously is 1,000 meters or 100 atmospheres. Now that is pretty outrageous, really. I highly doubt 99% of Ward's customers will ever go that deep. But in many instances, guys like to have, if the option is there, why not? Why not have an impressively deep a watch which is capable of impressive depths? Obviously, we have this helium release valve located at 9 to cater for the insane depth, and we have a really nice screw-in crown and screw-in case back as well to be able to cater for that. 22mm width of the strap, I think that's perfectly fine. This is obviously not the stainless steel bracelet, which it's a shame I haven't been able to have a look at it, because the stainless steel bracelet will have quick release on it as well, which is a massive plus, because no more fiddling trying to get rid of those, not get rid of them, but remove those bracelets can be a right pain in the bum. So to have a quick release bracelet will be amazing. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on that. Obviously, I'll share my thoughts with you once I do. But 22mm wide lugs, perfectly acceptable for this size of watch. No issues there. So the movement in this one is the Sellita SW200. So it's COSC certified. However, this one, because this is a press loaner, it isn't. So this one in particular is coming pretty wildly out of out of sync in terms of accuracy. However, if you were to buy one, obviously it will be certified, it will come with a certificate, and it will be to COSC tolerances, so that's pretty good. It is interesting that they didn't opt to put their own SH21 in-house movement in. Now, watches with their SH21 movement in tend to start around £1,500, so maybe to begin with the launch, they didn't quite want to price it too high. I'm really hoping that eventually they will bring out a Trident with the SH21 movement in, because that will be a serious contender and opposition to other watch manufacturers with in-house movements. Thinking of like the Tudor Black Bay, for instance, with their in-house movement. I think it will be a really promising model once they do that. So hopefully they will do that eventually. 5 years warranty on the movement as well. So Christopher Ward have pretty good customer service. Sometimes it can be pretty slow, but they do have good customer service in general. Okay, so let's have a think about some of the upgrades from the previous Trident then. So they've mentioned a few in particular that really they want to put across. First of all, the bezel action. Now they've made in one of the get-togethers Christopher Ward have just had, they made quite a bold statement that the bezel action is one of the best in the world. Really only Rolex can do better. Now, it does feel very good, and it does have a really lovely sound, very satisfying click, no backwards wobble at all. Now, I don't handle too many Rolexes, so I can't really pass on that, but all I can say is it is beautiful bezel action, and the ceramic inlay is really nice as well. We'll touch that further on a little bit. Another upgrade, vitally, I think is one of the most important upgrades, is the case. And usually, the Tridents have that quite standard slab barrel, whereas this is utilizing their new light catcher case, they call it. And I think it is absolutely fantastic. And it looks so beautiful at every single angle going. They're starting to roll this style case out, and it looks really good in this iteration as well with the Trident. As you can see, we have a number of lines, a number of different facets and finishes as well. We've got sort of like a frosted finish here, brush side, polished corners as well, and a brush top. So loads of different, a fine array of reflections, and just excellent quality of finishing as well. So one other upgrade is the way that the crown screws in, apparently. So it is, it does feel pretty good to use. I can't say that it is a massive, incredible upgrade. However, it does feel pretty good. Apparently, they've completely reworked the way that the crown screws in. I have noticed that it does line up quite a lot of the time as long as it's tight enough, which is obviously a cool plus, because that can be a bit of a headache for many. So whenever I tighten it up, it always lines up nicely, which is a pretty cool plus. And it's really nice to use as well. What else is upgraded? The Lume. Now, Christopher Ward have never really been that great with their Lume. However, with the Trident, they've upgraded the Lume. So now it's Super Luminova grade X1 GL C1, which I've never heard of, but it sounds great. And they've doubled the amount of Lume as well, which means that they've had to completely make the hour markers to be able to contain that extra layer of Lume, and the quality is very good. I mean, this is daylight and no like particular charge, but you can see it when you do cover it up, it does glow. So it is really good. So they have finally got somewhere with the Lume, which is great. A couple of other features they want to point out is the diving regulator inspired case back. So basically these ditches where the tool goes in to remove the case back is inspired from a diver regulator. I mean, that's more of a design feature rather than a proper feature. And the smooth polished dial as well. Let me just give it a whirl. So yes, many people will be upset about losing the waves on the dial. And, that was one of the distinctive pieces of the Trident before the Mark III. However, this smooth polished dial is really nice. It has almost a bit of a Omega feel to it, because the planet ocean liquid metal kind of feel to it.
certainly does make the watch look more luxurious. There's no doubt about that. So if you are doubtful that this polished dial looks better than the Waves, let me tell you, it really, really does create a much more luxurious appearance. So that is, in my eyes, a great addition, especially when it works really nicely with the reflective nature of the ceramic bezel insert as well. Really not so overly reflective that you can't read it. Obviously, legibility is still very important to them. After all, it is a diver, but it does, create a beautiful viewing experience almost. Okay, so let's talk about the watch section by section. So starting off with the dial, obviously we've mentioned the dial base, so we won't touch on that again. So the hands. Now, people really, really liked the Trident hands, and I really like them as well. The onion hour hand, the sword minute hand, what great design, which has stood the test of time. Now, I found with Christopher Ward, when they redo things, they don't do them by half. The Christopher Ward logo was a perfect example of that. They just completely changed it. Even if people hated it, they still just went through it and they said, look, this is how it is, like it or lump it. They've done that with the Trident hands as well. So I think the hour hand in particular is going to be the stickler for most. It's quite a fat, dumpy arrow. I like it. I'm not against it. However, some people are like, oh, it looks really, really bad. I don't think it looks bad at all. I think it looks nice and bold. So I think it's probably one of those things where it is a grower and people will come around to it eventually. There will be haters, no doubt, immediately. But after spending a fair bit of time with it, I don't think it's disgusting or anything like that. I just think it's different, which is good in a way. And it's certainly legible and easy to read as well. When you think about the finishing, let me just give it a quick wipe. Finishing of the hand is really good. They have a mixture of finishes. They've got like a brushed central channel and then polished sides. And obviously we do still have the classic Trident second hand, the counterweight. The Trident's actually been redesigned as well to a slightly more aggressive tone, which looks really nice, I think. And the orange tip with the Lume disc as well works really well. So we've mentioned the hour markers as well, the fact that they're extra deep now to be able to cater for the extra lume. I like the shape of them as well, sort of loomed center, steel edges, and then a polished sort of ramp at the base as well. And then our date wheel, nothing too fancy or exciting, it just does what it needs to do. I'm surprised they didn't include a blue date wheel on this option, however, it keeps it nice and legible in this instance. The logo, yes, left aligned, still at 9. People still want it to be centered at 12. That's not going to happen because their branding is left aligned logo. That's never going to change. So it's nice that they have included the twin flags in the top half. That certainly does, redo the balance of the Trident or of the watch in general, because without that, it certainly would look a little bit off. So I think the introduction of the twin flags at 12 certainly does create a much better visual impression on the entire dial. And it's painted as well. And I like the very subtle color difference between the flags and the dial base. Very subtle, but it looks really, really nice and classy. So yeah, the dial is going to be one of those main talking points for a long time. However, Christopher Ward is such a great watch that it's going to be a massive talking point, and I'm pretty confident in the end people are going to forget about it and people are going to start loving the watch no matter what they say about the logo and the dial and the hands. So moving on to the case, I mentioned the bezel mechanism. The bezel insert is really lovely as well. I really like the blue and orange, very sporty, very diving inspired. It's nice that it doesn't have a lume pit, but rather this triangle at 12 as well. It's just perfectly manufactured, and this grip as well, as you can see there, so fine, really, really nicely done. And moving on to the case main, again, I've mentioned it briefly, but the finishing of the case is really nice, and the shape of it is beautiful as well. So thinking about the crown, I've discussed the threading already, but there's the twin flags embossed on the end. Again, nicely done. it's quite gentle grip, same type of grip as the bezel edging, but really easy to use, and you know it's just really well manufactured. Moving on to the case back. Very similar to the Mark II Trident, except for we have this reworked Trident, as mentioned before, more aggressive, deep stamped as well. So again, nice to see a level of craftsmanship there. You know, sort of similar to sort of like the Omega Planet Ocean, maybe not quite as deep, but in a similar vein to it. And then we have this sort of polished outer edge, where we have the removal tool indents in the style of the diving regulator. So moving on to the strap then. So this is a new strap from Chris Ford, and they call it their hybrid sports strap. So it's waterproof Cordura with a premium FKM rubber backing, and I really like the rubber backing, as you can see. So first of all, it's nice to see, well, we've got this really funky, cool pattern. It makes it really comfortable on the wrist, actually, really easy, really breathable. You know, it doesn't make your wrist sweaty at all, so that's really clever what they've done here. I like the way that the twin flags is embossed in this section here as well, and it's the same on this side as well. Quick release pins, obviously, so nice and easy to replace, and the stitching, the weave is just really fine, and rubber single channel for the holes, that's vital as well for longevity. They will obviously won't wear out, so this will last a long time. And it's actually really hard wearing as well, because whilst wearing this, I was standing on the edge of a river, throwing the ball in for my dog to have a nice swim. This was when it was absolutely scorching weather, and I slipped, landed on my butt, got absolutely drenched, soaking, and mud everywhere on this strap and on the watch itself. I just dipped the water in the river, gave it all a good scrub, and it's looking as good as new. So that is really promising. The fact that this at one point was absolutely covered in mud, and now it looks as good as new. You wouldn't even you wouldn't even notice it. It's good that it's got the rubber edging as well. So obviously that's good for longevity's sake as well. So that will certainly last. Another nice thing is the keeper loops. This first keeper loop has these cheeky little keeper tabs almost that keeps it in place. You can remove them if you can move it if you want to, but it's really handy actually when you're wearing it. That doesn't move when you're wearing it, so that's really good. And just the sort of like more sticky nature of rubber does keep them in place anyway. And then finally, the tang buckle is also in titanium, just like the case, with the Chris Ford logo deeply engraved on the left hand side there. All right, so I don't want to rabble on too long, but let's get the macro lens on and look at it in closer detail. Starting off with the dial as we do. So here's the twin flags printed, as you can see, on the reflective dial. Have a look at our hour markers. You can see our brushed edges and a polished ramp with our Lume. If I can, there we go, cover the camera up a little bit, you can see the Lume poking through. And, you know, not forgetting this is daylight, so the fact this is showing up this bright is a testament to the strength. Looking at the hands, so you can see we have our brushed central column and then polished sides, and that goes all the way through to the end. Very well manufactured, you know, no issues whatsoever. And there's our orange tip and our Trident counterweight on the second hand as well. Some of our print work, very nice and fine. You know, absolutely flawless, really. And what we've got over here, oh yeah, data window, there we go. So really perfect execution on the dial, no complaints whatsoever. Moving on to the bezel insert. So got a bit of skin there, let me just wipe that. So pretty nice and fine. It's a splash of colour thanks to the orange. Let me just cover that up and you can see the Lume poking through there. So all of these markings are loomed, as you can see. And moving on to the bezel grip, as you can see, very nice. Uniform grip all the way around. Looking at our case now, polished top, polished shoulder, brushed top and side. Here's our helium release valve. And then this frosted ridge at the bottom, which is a really nice little touch. Provides another, angle. Moving on to this side, here's our crown with our twin flags. Nicely lined up as well. You can see it's polished with a frosted base, nice and deep. Decent grip as well, sort of to match the grip of the bezel. And then flipping it over, here's our case back. So frosted back base drop for that, and then nice and deep as you can see there. Very impressively done. Some information here. And it's our deep diving regulator inspired case back removal sections. Moving on to the strap then. Here we have a quick release pin on one side. Down here we have it on the other side. Here's some of our weave. Let's look at it on the top. Very uniform. There's that edging as well. Here's the holes. If I flip it over, we'll have a look at this funky finishing on the underside. And there's our twin flags embossed on it as well. And finally, our tang buckle. So there's Christopher Ward logo, nice and deeply engraved, and it's brushed as well, which is good. So it will hide the majority of scratches that inevitably will pick up. Okay, so all in all, I think it's really important actually to mention that the new Pro of the Mark III is only £35 more than the current Mark II. So the Pro obviously starts at £695. Now, the amount that they have improved, everything basically, that is actually quite impressive that they haven't upgraded, increased the price more. It's completely reworked from head to toe. The dial, the hands, the bezel, the case, everything is brand new, and the quality of it, it does ooze quality as well. Yes, the design is going to be a sticking point, but there is no shadow of a doubt that this really does punch above its weight in terms of quality to price. Whilst I haven't necessarily seen the Pro, if it's made to a similar degree to this, it is far superior to watches costing twice its price. There's no question about it. Just the upgrades like the ceramic bezel. Obviously, yes, some of the Tridents do have ceramic bezel, but this one is really, really reflective. The reflective dial as well looks so classy as well. Looks great. The case is just a delight as well, and the bezel is lovely. I can't say if it's second only to Rolex, but it is genuinely really, really great. So it does ooze quality. It is made to a very, very high standard. So it's a question of, do you like the design? Personally, I do like it. I don't look at the hands and think, ugh, or I don't look at the logo and think, ugh. I think it's a great, unique diver now, because at the end of the day, the divers section is, fairly saturated, but this handset is quite unique. And the Trident obviously is still there, which is great. So I think they must have seen, a sort of gap there where they can really completely remake a brand new range. And yes, it will upset a lot of people. However, this is the next generation of Trident, and this is how it's going to be. So fair play to Christopher Ward for really going for it. As I mentioned before, they don't do things by half, do they? They've really gone for it, and in my eyes, they've done something that naturally will be very, very popular, because at the end of the day, it does offer a lot of watch for the money. So this was the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Mark III Elite 1000, quite the mouthful, and that's what it's all about. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also comment your thoughts as well. So thank you very much, and see you next time.